In a development as combustible as a Turkish coffee pot left unwatched, Istanbul's mayor and Erdogan's supposed rival, Ekrem Imamoglu, the municipal leader, has been detained and now faces formal corruption charges. He's been charged alongside 90 others. Accusations of terror links remain under investigation, but crucially, at this moment, on Sunday morning, no terrorism charges have yet been filed against him. And this unfolding legal drama has electrified the Turkish political landscape. And so far, the Turkish authorities insist this is a routine investigation, but it shatters the status quo. It's seriously damaged the internet links. It's a nightmare trying to navigate anything on the internet at this moment. Imamoglu stands accused of running a criminal network which with claims ranging from bribery and tender rigging to money laundering, illegal data acquisition, and even vote buying, thanks in part to a conveniently leaked money counting video, which I put a few minutes of that up a few days ago. And several figures linked to him are implicated, including his former spokesperson, the general manager of his family's construction firm, and senior Istanbul municipal officers. One might be forgiven for asking whether this is the municipal leader's office or a Netflix writer's room. This is like a like a replay of a Netflix film about a cartel in Mexico. Yet the timing of these charges is impossible to ignore. They arrived just days before he was expected to be confirmed as the Republican People's Party's, the CHP candidate for president in a symbolic primary. But even there, the newspapers and the news outlets are suggesting that itself was a mask to try to politicize the moment and to wriggle out of responsibility. Outrage, of course, with many accusing President Erdogan of wielding the judiciary as a blunt political instrument, and protests have erupted across more than two-thirds of Turkey's 81 provinces, including Erdogan's strongholds of Konya and Trabzon. But interestingly, I am actually here, and I've seen no evidence of this on the streets at all. There's supposed to be a mass display of democratic defiance, not near me, and not that I have seen or heard. The scale of the intensity of the demonstrations are reminiscent of the protests a decade ago with the coup attempt. Authorities have responded with a ban on public gatherings, a surge in police presence, water cannons, pepper spray, 340 arrests. The Interior Minister has warned against provocation and accused foreign social media actors of manipulating the situation. The government has denied reports that Britain and France has warned its citizens to leave Turkey, calling such rumours disinformation. Well, I've not been told I have to leave, and I've certainly heard nothing. We should pause here because there's so much stuff being thrown into the air. Disinformation or not, the sheer need to issue such a rebuttal speaks volumes about perceptions of state legitimacy. The rhetoric from all camps has grown shrill. The accusations that CHP is turning into an apparatus of theft. The claims that Imamoglu and his allies are blinded by money and intent on polarizing the nation. Well, a lot of this depends on one video. And that video, I think, is damning. Utterly damning. But disturbing public peace? Curious, given that the charges stemmed from alleged crimes committed during Imamoglu's tenure as a directly elected civil official, civil mayor, not a clandestine revolutionary. And the opposition leader, Özgür Özel, has not backed down, calling on citizens to symbolically vote in primaries and to protect democracy. The symbolic ballot boxes are as much a PR masterstroke as they are an act of resistance, illustrating the tension between procedural legality and moral legitimacy. Some comparisons are being drawn to Russia's treatment of opposition figures, where charges of corruption and terror are invoked with suspicious regularity. Erdogan's defenders bristle at this, pointing to the supposed independence of Turkish courts. And yet, when Istanbul University annulled Imamoglu's diploma, thereby potentially disqualifying him from presidential eligibility, many saw it not as a coincidence but as choreography. Let me be precise. This is not a defence of Imamoglu's innocence. He, like any citizen, must answer before the law. But the selective zeal of this prosecution, the timing and the scale of repression, suggests a judicial process that is not as independent as it should be. A judicial process which has been instrumentalised. Turkey is a NATO member. It remains an EU aspirant in form, if not in substance. It should be pulled into the European family. What happens here has implications, therefore, beyond its borders. The international press, while often prone to exaggeration, and in this case, not only exaggeration but omission, is not wrong to see this episode as a warning sign. Turkey's democratic institutions are pushing at the edge of power, and rapidly so. But that doesn't mean that they are necessarily wrong. I think there's good reason to fear that something has gone badly wrong in Imamoglu's tenure. And that's about as far as I would dare to go. Many young people across Turkey think that the issue transcends Imamoglu. As a Turkish writer, Kemal Khan, put it, this is a feeling of being trapped economically, socially and culturally, and that sentiment, once widespread, is now erupting into the open. So what's next? I think Turkey needs to recognise that the period of Erdogan's rule is coming to an end, and it needs to establish and prepare for a transition. Now, that may be a transition to another party, it may be a transition to another leader in the AK party, but that process of transition, particularly after a long period of stability, is likely to be difficult. It's always difficult. The process of transition we've seen in the UK has been difficult. It wasn't helped by the fact that Liz Truss was in power when the Queen died. The judiciary in Turkey must now decide whether to pursue Imamoglu through the courts for the corruption charges, whether to pursue him for the terrorism charges, which are at the moment hovering and haven't actually been decided upon. And I think corruption alone is enough. And getting to the heart of whether or not this money video is betrays a wider malaise. But if the intention here was to crush a rival, which I don't think it was, frankly, the effect, the achievement has been the opposite, because Imamoglu is now a cause, not a candidate. And the regime that speaks endlessly of order may have unleashed something far less predictable. So whether you view this as a justified legal reckoning or authoritarian overreach, one truth stands clear. Turkey is entering a volatile period where the rule of law and the power of the street could easily collide, and the role of a prudent state now is to establish peace and to establish stability. And the rest of the world, I think, rather than stirring up problems, should be doing everything they can to encourage order. So this sort of the reporting that we've seen on the BBC and in the Times in the last few days which prefaces um, any form of reporting with statements indicating a very clear bias against Erdogan and the AK Party regime, is and doesn't then go on to talk about the details of this arrest and the details that are being put forward, is doing a disservice to journalism, is doing a serious disservice. And we need to look at the we need to look at the problems with a destabilized Turkey. I don't think it's going to get to that, but I don't think the international press, the Western press, particularly the British press, has helped in any way to calm the storm. And that I find sad. There are questions to be asked, but we should be approaching the story with slightly less of a bias against the main actors.